Hi and welcome to another Just Ask Jen video. I'm designer Jen Gallagher and these videos are hosted by Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine. Today I will be answering the question of how to incorporate die cuts into a layout. And so we're going to be using some of these Spellbinder die cuts that they generously sent me. And they come in a variety of sizes. Now the Spellbinder's die shapes are wafer thin, and so whatever system you're using, whether it's the Spellbinder's die cut machine or another die cut machine, you need to have the correct plates for using the wafer thin dies. Now for the foundation of the layout, I'm going to be using this fun collection from Fancy Pants Design called Memories Captured. And there are fun black elements mixed with some very pretty coral pinks and soft blues. And so here's some of the elements we're going to use. There are also chalkboard elements, which are super hot right now, as you can see in some of the sticker sheets they've used, as well as the pattern paper. So lots of different pattern papers to choose from, including a full sheet of chalkboard paper and pages where you can just simply cut out your photos and start inserting and you're good to go. This is a fun one where you can cut things out. And the papers are all double-sided. You can see on the B sides that there are a lot more muted tone-on-tone patterns. There is also a chalkboard alphabet and two corrugated sheets, one in black and one in that hot coral pink color. So using some die-cut shapes in this fun collection, let's go ahead and make a layout today. So the first thing I want to do before we get into building the layout is show you how I use my die cuts to create pattern shapes on my layouts. So I'm going to use this fun Spellbinders die cut set. It is a page map set and it's called the address book. And you can see on the back that the die cuts are stuck to the actual packaging. You simply open it and peel out the one that you want. And then it has a thin outline where the cut is going to take place. Now I suggest if you're using these metallic dies that you do one thing, and that is that you look for the new magnetic platforms that a lot of companies are developing. This particular one is from Sizzix. So if you're not using the actual platform from Spellbinders, then I suggest you get this. And for this particular die cut machine, what we'll do is first you cut your paper to the width that the platform is. So you can get a little smaller, but no wider than this because it will not fit in manual die cut machines. So depending on the machine that you're using, you'll need to place that on there. So I place the pattern paper down, and then depending on how I want the tab of this cut is where I will place my cut. Now make sure that the part that has that thin outline is on top of the actual paper. And you can see because it's magnetic, it's not going anywhere. And then following the instructions for the die cut machine you are using, you will place a plate down, and then you'll place the magnetic plate on top, and then you place the plate through the machine. And again, it depends on the machine that you're using, so be sure to read the instructions. But what it does is the magnetic platform holds it in place and allows you to easily cut exactly where you want to on the paper. If you don't have a magnetic die cut machine, then what I suggest you do is you take any bit of washi tape, and you add a little bit of washi tape across the top of your die cut and the pattern paper. Now, because the cutting part is on the bottom, the other side of this die cut, it will not cut through that washi tape. That is another way to hold your paper in place. So once you've run it through your die cut machine, you're going to end up with a cut that looks like this. Now if I wanted the tab on the other side, I would simply have put the die cut on the star side of the paper, and then the tab would have appeared in a different place. So it takes a little bit of math and practice and know how to get this right. But this is how you can use these wafer thin die cuts on your layout. So let's go ahead and make a layout. So we're going to start with a couple of things. First, I cut out some Polaroid frames from the pattern paper that I showed you at the beginning. I have a rectangle that has been cut to size so that two of the Polaroid frames will fit on top, and it does have the chalkboard on the top, and I tried to cut through a part of the chalkboard that I wouldn't need to use later. I tried to keep the solid part intact. And then for the base of the layout, I'm using a small polka dot pattern paper that has this bold pattern on the back. So that's how we'll start the layout. One thing that I will do is I will first cut things out and move them around until I get a feel for exactly where I want them to appear on my layout. You could use an exacto knife to cut the centers from the polaroid frames, but this is the easiest way to do that, and that is to simply leave those polaroid frames completely intact and then use a ruler to measure the square that you need to cut. And then you can cut out photos from your 4x6 photos, or if you print at home, you can print them exactly the size that you need, and then you can place them on top. So if you want to save a step, you can eliminate the need to cut out the centers with exacto knives. But this is just a personal style choice. Now to the bottom of the yellow pattern paper, I want to add a little bit of a border strip. So I'm going to take one of the B sides, which is a solid green, and then I'm going to take a border punch from Stampin' Up, and it's a little notebook border punch, and I will simply punch the edge wide enough that it will fit underneath that yellow pattern paper. And I usually keep the entire piece intact. It's a little bit more sturdy, but you can make it as thin beforehand as you want, meaning you can cut it beforehand. I sometimes do this first and then come back and trim out the paper. You'll notice that I didn't punch the entire strip because I knew that I wouldn't need the entire strip. To the bottom of the pattern paper, I'll add a little bit of adhesive. And then what I want to do is I want to center this rectangle on top of the pattern so that the pattern is the same on both sides. And then I'll simply use scissors to trim off the excess. You could also use your paper trimmer if you're more comfortable with that. And then we can add this to the bottom of our layout. So those B sides of the paper are great for doing things like this. Then to the left side of the photo block, I'm going to add some pattern paper. It has the Polaroids on the other side, and I tried to cut through two that I wasn't going to use, and I still have two left over. And I'm going to add this, the orange side up on the left side of this part of the layout. And you'll notice that it's cut a little bit more. I kind of eyeballed it. You could cut it perfectly if you wanted. Now I printed my journaling out on a piece of cardstock. It is craft cardstock, and then I machine stitched around it. And you'll notice that I used yellow thread. And to do that, I keep my bobbin thread white, and then I can change out the top thread for whatever color. Because the white is only used to loop the thread, it doesn't show up and it's not as noticeable. So as I printed this particular journaling, you'll notice that I left a little bit of a gap. And what I want to do with that gap is I'm going to add a sticker in the center of that journaling. And what I will do is I will look over the sticker sheet and I will see if there is a sticker that I can use in the center that works, whether it's a long word or smaller letter stickers, something that helps support the theme of this layout. So this is one of the smaller sticker sheets, and I'm going to use this green Staying Focused, and I'll just center that in the middle of the journaling piece. You could also add a stamp here if you so desire. Then from the buttons and chipboard sticker piece, I'm going to add some of these buttons, and you'll notice that I cut the packaging off with them so that I could kind of move them around and see what they were going to look like before I actually stuck them on my layout. And that way I'm not moving them around and wasting them. If the backing, the adhesive backing peels off, you can just use the glue dot to hold them in place. Then I'm going to add some photo corners to the bottom of this yellow pattern paper. These are from Canson. You could punch these from a square punch, or you could eliminate this step altogether. I'm simply going to peel up what I had previously done, or you could do this step before adding the decorative border. It's up to you. Just depends on how sticky your adhesive is. Alright, to the top here I want to create a little bit of a grid, and I'm going to use several of the elements from the collection. I'm going to use a yellow bag, a couple of tags, or the die cut piece rather, and a couple of tags, and then I also printed a much smaller photo, and we'll use all of these on this particular cluster. You could add additional items inside the bag. Sometimes that is a fun thing that you can do. Now, before I stick everything down, I already know that I'm going to have a border that runs across, but things are going to be beneath the border and above the border. So I just want to make sure that when I place items, I have plenty of room. So I'm going to set this border onto the layout, but I'm not yet adding it to the layout with adhesive. And to add this die cut a little bit askew, we'll add the green tag a little higher. And we'll add the poppy diagonal tag a little lower. And we'll add the photograph on top of there. So you can see I just created a cluster with some of the items from the collection. Now let's go ahead and add the border. I think I'm going to cut this in a slight pennant shape. So I gently fold it in half and do as I normally do, and that's to cut a triangle from each end of this strip. And this is a diagonal paper with a watercolored yellow on the other side. And this will go across the top of our yellow pattern paper, making sure to cover all of that. Then I've cut a strip from the green striped pattern paper, and we'll do the same thing. You can see it's from the strips. You'll notice that the strips I cut ran horizontally, but I cut it vertically because I wanted the stripes to run this way. So notice where the stripes fall when you're cutting it with your cutter. So again, cutting it into a pennant shape. And I fold it in half so that both sides are equal. And then we'll just add this across the diagonal stripe. We're just building up this layer by layer. Then rather than just use a bunch of pattern paper strips, you can also use stickers. And I don't need the entire sticker for this. So one way you can do this is you can add talcum powder to the back of the sticker, and it will make it a little less sticky. I'm going to place it down, kind of keep it up with my finger. Remove that extra part and place it down. Then I want to add a little bit of yellow, so I'm going to take some yellow washi tape and I'm going to overlap the two different sticker and pattern paper border, and that gives it just a little bit more of a presence. Across the bottom of the two photos, I'm going to add another sticker from that smaller sticker sheet. It says you can never take too many photos, and boy, isn't that the truth. And we will stick that between the two Polaroid photos, and that brings some of that black, the black that you see in the sticker and the button, brings that back down here, which helps the eye flow around the entire layout. Now for the title of this layout, I have both die cut items, and we're also going to use the chalkboard sticker set that came with this collection. And so one way that you can do this is you can take a ruler and you can put the words on the edge of the ruler and then place them down. And that's a great way to make sure the placement of your stickers is correct. So let's grab a ruler and make sure this title looks great. So typically you're going to start with the biggest item, and that is going to be this rather large ampersand. And I'm going to tie some ribbon to the side of it to make it look a little bit more texturized, and ribbon is a great way to do that. And you can do it in a knot or a bow. We'll start with the bow and see how it looks. We can always change it if that's a little bit too girly for the layout. So we'll go ahead and add some adhesive. If you find the bow is too bulky, something like a glue dot will also look good with this particular style. We'll add that there. Now let me show you a little trick. So I couldn't find a ruler, but I do often have these craft sticks on my desk or near my desk. And so what I did is I took the other parts of the title, and you can see that I've placed them right along the edge of these sticks. And what I can do is I can kind of place them and get a feel for how the title is going to look on my layout. So then what you'll do is taking the stickers, you'll make sure that they're on the edge, and you'll place the top of them down. Oops. And you will just place them down. Now if they pop up like that, that's fine, just fix them. You can use it for full placement, or you can place them down as I showed you. Again, we're spelling beautiful inside and out using both silhouette die cut shapes and the letter stickers found in this collection. And again, let's try that again. That one worked a little bit better. So you can see with one step it gave me a nice straight title. And then we'll add this particular word to the layout. I'll use a scratch sheet of paper and I'll add adhesive to the back. You can run it through your Xyron to get really good coverage on the back of it, and then you can just add it like you would a sticker to your layout. We'll place this on top, and then we'll go ahead and trim off the ribbon and see how it looks as a bow. And you can adjust the bow as need be. And then to the upper portion here, I want to add a little bit of bling. So I'm going to add some sequins, and I will do that just using a glue dot, depending on how big the sequin is. You can add these however you best like. You can machine stitch these on as well. And then if you remove the backing off the buttons, the adhesive backing, you can thread twine through the center of them, and then you can add them to your layout after you've added the twine. And that's just a little bit different of a look. So there you have a layout that uses both a fun Spellbinders die cut as well as a fancy pants collection to create a layout. And the use of both manual and digital die cuts are a great look on any layout. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Be sure to subscribe to the Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of these tutorials.